What's up, Privacy Stream watchers? We're back. I'm Dwight, and Chris is here with me today. We're talking privacy. In particular, you want to talk about Data Privacy Week. This is going to be episode 9 and our final episode for this season. So we appreciate everyone's feedback. We appreciate you joining in. And we just want to say thank you for making this season successful so far. And we definitely want to get more feedback and hear more from you so that we can make season 2 even better.
Yeah, and we'll be taking about a 6-week break and be coming back in March. So Data Privacy Week, right?
Data Privacy Week has kicked off. And if you find this National Cybersecurity Alliance link in the description box, you'll see that it goes from the 27th through the 31st. They do have a theme. And you want to read that theme, Chris?
Yeah, so the same here. So you have the power to take charge of your data. This is why we are excited to celebrate Data Privacy Week 2025. The theme is to take control of your data. You know, your online activity creates a treasure trove of data. So many different apps, websites, platforms that we use nowadays. And the big thing is like go into those settings, take a look at them, dig into it a little bit more, and just be aware of what's happening because these different platforms are constantly doing updates and things as well.
There's so much you can do. I think at the start of the year when we were encouraging people to get a hold of their personal data, they've also got some webinars going on every day of this week. We recommend that you have a look, especially if there's some topics. If you want to hear people talk about privacy and AI pretty specifically, you might want to jump in. And then here's a few suggestions that they have.
Yeah, so like manage your privacy settings. You want to review your privacy and security settings, but don't know where to find them. Direct links and so forth to the privacy settings. Take control of your data, following steps in order to manage your personal information. And just making informed decisions, just being aware of like what data is out there. There is some trade of data for services that we use nowadays, but just at least being aware of what information these companies are utilizing and how they're utilizing it. And respect privacy. So the third one here, respecting consumers' privacy is a smart strategy for inspiring trust and enhancing reputation and growth in your business.
Yeah, and I feel proud that this season we talked about a lot of these. I hope everybody feels a little bit more confident with them. But Chris, maybe that first one, if you'll hit that, maybe go ahead and hit that learn more button. And yeah, the settings in all of these different apps are going to be a little bit different, but one of the ones you definitely want to dedicate some time to are the ones that you use the most. So here's a great little starter list for you to go through and see. And just keep in mind while you do this that some of these apps are more data hungry than others. You see mobile banking on here. You see your communication, things you use for communication. You're going to want to know like what your settings are, anything that you're putting some sort of sensitive data into. We want to be careful about that. Anything you've seen in the news, your biometric data, we've talked about that. Even some car data, your actual location data, those are going to be some hot button issues that we're going to see coming up in this coming year. And it's going to be a hot year for privacy.
Yeah, and I also want to highlight, like you could see just the extent of just these popular ones that they've already outlined. I think this covers like probably all the popular ones that people typically use, from browsers to cloud storage, and there's even like food ordering apps and so forth. But they also note up here at the top that you can also reach out to them if you want to add something as well. If
Any of
it's not on this
those
list already.
stand out or you want to give a click to?
But yeah, like Samsung, that's something that I struggle with. I do notice that they have 2 separate Samsung here, but
I
let's
did not
see
see
here.
Discord on that list.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things I was going to confirm. So let's go ahead and check out YouTube Live. And so that goes straight over to the YouTube Live, managing our settings. So editing metadata, here's our privacy section right here.
Yeah, so these kind of link you to the systems themselves. It isn't necessarily a guide like once you get there, just like maybe links you to the help data and stuff like that. What this doesn't maybe necessarily cover, and they might cover this in webinars and things like that, you might want to give a thought to how you access the internet as well. So your browsers, what are your settings set to? When is the last time you've sort of cleared your cache and deleted cookies and, things of that nature. What websites can save what and, in your settings. So make sure that you're a little bit aware of that and maybe reevaluating that when you have a chance.
Yeah, exactly. And this is something that, although this is data privacy week, this is something that we would recommend. Like, this takes a lot of time. Like myself alone, there's like over 80 different logins alone that I know I have. So it's just throughout the year, like you could even mark this. Like what I do is just implement it to where like, oh, I'm going to do 2 accounts this week. So I'm going to dedicate 30 minutes on, Friday to take two of my accounts and double check those settings, especially the ones that I use the most, to just review it and make sure everything's set up correctly. Because you also see like, I mean, there's all of these different types of apps. There's a lot in here.
I think you might be more formal about it than I am. So, okay, this is cool, everybody. You get to hear two completely different approaches to it. For me, I tend to just sort of pay attention to the things that I'm using most and the types of data that I'm putting in. And yeah, when I'm setting up those accounts or, when I have some downtime for the accounts that I'm using the most heavily, typically that's going to be something like social media. Then I, will sort of check in on those. Even something that you might not think could be complicated, for example, LinkedIn, there's a lot of settings about how they deal with your data. And so it does take a bit of time to go through that. And I think now is probably a good time to mention that Chris has had a pretty interesting experience doing that himself.
Yeah. So one of the things I recently did is I requested my data. Most of these applications, especially the big ones, provide an option to request your data, which they will compile and send you all of the data that they have on your account. I recently did this for Discord. Discord is my main communication app. I probably spend more time on that than anything else. I was really surprised by the extent of data that they still had, from timestamps to, like access from my Android mobile device. There was even like IP addresses in there. There's an entire archive of over 500 different DMs with full context that's stored in there. So, and a lot of those are from like over a year ago as well, which is kind of surprising. So, one of the things that I'm going to take a next step on is, okay, so they have this amount of data. Now, what is the method or steps, or is it even possible for me to request for them to like remove this? I don't see a need for them to maintain this data forever. So, like maybe I could send in an email, or they have a system that I need to take the next steps on to request like, oh yeah, there's no need for you to have all of this stuff for over 12 months or otherwise. Mm. But yeah, it's just very surprising. And then that gives me an idea of like what the impact to me is. Because even though I have the settings configured properly, they're still collecting a lot of this information. So that's just one really good example. And it's like that for a lot of these different platforms as well. Google's another really popular one where you can request your data, or Apple as well, and you'll see it very similar outcomes.
Yeah, so it isn't so simple that you just request your data and things are solved. Like we do want you to exercise your privacy rights, but sometimes it might cause you to have more questions or more confusion about what to do even from there. It is a process, like, limit the data where you can, delete apps where you can, pay attention to what you're using, what you're not using. And if there are special issues, special types of data, pay attention to that. I know some of our viewers are parents, so what apps your children are using, it's important to kind of pay attention to those as well and looking at what information that they collect because legally they do have some obligations and your children should be getting consent from you to use most apps if they're under 12 or 13.
Yeah, and also to run off of that real quick as well is like Discord in particular, and a lot of these other ones, like they may allow you to remove certain types of data or otherwise, or they may have like an automated system for that, but then a lot of them also don't. And like what I already found out just looking around is it does not appear that Discord has something like that. But that's also where, as the privacy industry evolves and continues to grow out, and consumers start taking it to the next level, they like Discord has a privacy email to contact them. And that's also how we could change the future for ourselves, our children, the next generations, is by just taking those additional steps, sending them an email being like, hey, I really don't like the fact that you are keeping all of this forever. You have no methods of removing it. is there something we could do about that? And that's another way that I see the industry moving, not with just Discord, but all of these different applications as well, especially when they don't provide that option for removal.
Yeah, and it's a bit tougher here in the US. I think that we'll see some
Mhm.
more pressure on that front as some of these laws come out and it becomes unfeasible to manage that for so many different, different rights for different states. It's going to be, crazy for a lot of companies to manage. So they will have to do some sort of blanket access to that data, blanket deletion of that data for a lot of people. So we can sort of look for that. But I think we should also be on the lookout for some companies that are doing things to innovate in this space for personal data, coming in and not just generating a letter to a company and saying, hey, this is we're contacting you on behalf of Dwight and Chris. Please delete our data. I mean, like that's helpful sometimes, but also that tell you like give you a rating on these particular apps that you're using. How secure are they? Are they selling your data? Like making it easy for these things to look at. Maybe also, if they're getting access to your data, maybe telling you what types of data is in there and how sensitive it is, and if you should consider, maybe how long they've been retaining that data or any other really like important terms that it's hard for you to look at in a glance. So I think that's an important place where we could see some innovation for a popular app. We see some of that happening for businesses, but regular folks need that in their hands too.
Oh, yeah. Most certainly. Yeah, so I hope that this kind of gets you thinking a little bit more about it. Definitely take a look at the links down in the description below, just like the different examples that they'd have for all those different platforms, just to get you started there. And then I hope that this gives you some helpful information, and together we could make things a little bit more just aware, just so that way you realize where your data is and what's happening with it.
And if you do have apps that you think are particularly hairy, and this could be just maybe they're confusing to go through the controls, or maybe just decision fatigue. There's too many options. You don't know what they all mean, or maybe you find that they do have some deceptive practices. We talked a lot about that in this first season here. If you want us to take a look at them and go through them, maybe we could dedicate an episode to that. And maybe we could just help you out in the Discord. Just keep that in mind. We're happy to look into those, and we want to make this as useful for you as possible.
Exactly. And then as we close out here, we look forward to a strong season 2 coming up in March. And yeah, drop your comments, questions, concerns in the chat on the Discord server. We'll see you then. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.